Hi and welcome along to this week's episode of CannaChat, where we casually chat about all things cannabis related. We appreciate you tuning in.
All views expressed in this podcast are the opinions of the host and in no way medical advice. Hi guys, welcome along to episode 8 of CannaChat. I've got Tim again with me here today.
Lee, how's things?
All good, Tim, all good. We're going to cover a wee bit more about medical cannabis in the UK again, simply because it's a real hot topic at the minute. Everybody seems to be asking a lot of questions about it. A lot of people seem to be having a lot of issues with it as well. I'll just relate to an article I read this week. The UK government has been accused of complacency as leading bodies call for more rights for medical cannabis patients. Plea, a patient-led organisation, was joined by Life Group and the Cannabis Industry Council in labelling the UK's medical cannabis model as unsustainable, arguing that chronically ill patients should not be forced into a private market, many of whom can't afford it due to a lack of NHS subscriptions. It's not even just that, even a case of people now getting it privately, they're having the number one pay a fortune, and then number two, they're not getting the service that they're paying that extortionate money for. People also being sent out wrong meds. There's people who aren't able to get meds that have been supplied for maybe 1 to 2 months, 3 months, and now all of a sudden they can't keep up with demand and they can't supply them their meds. They're maybe sending them different meds altogether, which is just, that's crazy. I mean, I'll relate to one message I got from someone to the podcast this week through Instagram. I actually asked a couple of people if they had experience with medical cannabis, and if it did have experience with medical cannabis, what it was like, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent. Here's one of the responses I got. Hi there, I'm currently a patient with Sapphire Clinic. I've largely had a positive experience with the doctors in the clinic. However, I have had issues with the pharmacy. Cureleaf CBPM, I have received medication I'm not prescribed multiple times, and the quality of the medication, Advent, is pretty subpar, even at £5 a gram. It's worth getting a prescription to avoid the laced stuff currently being sold by dealers, and to mitigate potential legal issues. But until the price comes down further and the quality of medication and pharmacy improves, there's a lot to be desired from the experience. I honestly couldn't wrap that up any better in relation to my own experience. My own experience was very, very similar to that. I wasn't sent the wrong meds, no, by no means. But as regards the way the system is and how it is, as regards money-wise, it's extortionate. I initially went on to medical cannabis and I paid £250 for a consultation. Since that, I was then prescribing medical cannabis. I paid £8 a gram for medical cannabis after that. After that, I paid £25 for a pre-prescription. My latest experience of that is I was on medical cannabis legally for 2 months, just over, maybe 2.5 months, when I put in another pre-prescription. So after putting in my pre-prescription, I actually was contacted by the pharmacy and they told me they didn't have my medication to send me. They offered me alternative medication, which would again be back to trial and error again with that medication to see if that medication works for me. It doesn't work for me. I'm lucky enough I'm in a position where I'm in the middle of the community and things like that, but there's people who have never dealt with people in the cannabis community who don't have assistance and don't have advice and don't have the help with things like this. So if it was someone, for talk's sake, maybe some lady in her 50s for talk's sake, who's prescribed something for anxiety and depression. She's been using that for maybe 6-7 weeks. It's all been great, fine and dandy. It's helping her, fantastic. She goes to get her pre-prescription and suddenly they don't have her medicine. So they said that they offer an alternative medicine that might work the same and it might not for her. So again, they send it out. It's another 4 weeks trial before she can try something else again. If that doesn't work for her, she might be back to square one with her anxiety and depression. She might be further back than square one with her anxiety and depression because she was getting relief and then all of a sudden that relief's now gone. It's not fit for purpose, and that's the truth. You can't be getting people prescribed meds that work for them and then just suddenly strip them away from them because they're unavailable. The system's not ready if it's being run the way it's been designed at the minute. Plus on top of that, I mean, again, like I said, I think it needs to be cannabis specialists involved with the GPs. It's all great that the GPs can understand conditions, but they maybe don't understand the certain strains that they're prescribing to people. Maybe, again, there'd be less trial and error if there were specialists involved with these GPs. I think that's key to the whole system working. Again, we'll go back to the article again briefly. Yeah, as Mike Barnes says, the UK's cannabis market is completely inadequate to cater for the demand of medical cannabis. The government must wake up, face reality and put patients first by enabling GPs to prescribe life-changing medicine. Currently, just under 20,000 patients in the UK are granted legal access to medicinal cannabis. with only around 110 specialist practitioners able to prescribe in the UK. Again, it's not much of a system when you look at how it's built at the minute. There's other countries changing the way they do things. Argentina's just agreed to let citizens grow their own cannabis if they've got medically ill children. That to me is fantastic because it takes that cost out of it. Not only does it take that cost out of it, like I explained before, but letting people grow their own medicine to a degree. If they have the time and the knowledge and the education, or they want to put the time into gaining the education on growing their own medicine and stuff, then it's a no-brainer that way, because they know their medicine's clean, they know it's passed all the relevant tests, because they've watched it from day one growing it, so they know it hasn't had no pesticides, it hasn't had no contaminants, or whatever the case may be. It hasn't been contaminated with anything else outside sources, so they know it's good, clean medicine. It's a very good system, but that's not the only one. There's other countries that have actually started this too. This week, Italy actually released the same thing, saying that medicinal cannabis is legal in Italy. They've now said by the end of the year they plan on letting their citizens, not just of sick children, but their citizens in general, grow up to 4 plants. To me, it's a fantastic idea. It's close to decriminalisation. It's certainly another step towards it. And again, like I said, decriminalisation is key. That's where we want to head ultimately in the end of this. Because, like I said, it's a plant that shouldn't be restricted from anyone. It's like anything that grows from the ground. It shouldn't be restricted. It's a natural product. So everything can be abused. I say alcohol is fully legal. Tobacco's fully legal, your fatty foods are fully legal. I mean, all these things can be abused to where it causes serious health issues. It's no different with cannabis, so why shouldn't it be fully legal? The same as everything else should be decriminalised. But I say we're not there yet, but at the minute, while it's medicinally legal in the UK, yes, it's a start, but privately it's not ideal and it's not working very well. And just the fact that it's in its infancy, really. I mean, it's medicinally legal since 2018 in the UK. So it's still quite in its infancy. As regards Northern Ireland here, it's only been getting prescribed probably the last 6 to 8 months. It was hard to get clinics to prescribe over here because, again, Northern Ireland's just sort of forgot about a lot of the time. There's only 2 clinics prescribing to here at the moment. Again, it just makes it a bit more of a monopoly because it's nailed down with a few specific clinics, which means they can choose the pricing and they can choose how it runs for people. An example to what happened with myself, my clinic couldn't prescribe me the medicine that I was being prescribed, so I decided to go to another clinic. So I got my medical records signed off one clinic to the other clinic. They got back to me and says, yes, you're eligible for medical cannabis because we've looked at your medical records. Your medical records say that you're fit for medical cannabis, and that we've also seen that you've been on medical cannabis for the last 8 weeks with another clinic, so you're fully eligible. I said that's great, so I switched to your clinic. So I switched to another clinic, which the first clinic I was with was Zerenia. I switched from Zerenia to Cardiff Cannabis Clinics. They told me it was fully eligible until I went to put in a prescription for my medicine, in which case they told me I had to do an initial consultation. Another initial consultation is another £250. It's £250 which I refused to pay into, because to me it's a corrupt system. It's just money grabbing. Everybody's getting it hard enough financially at the minute with the rising price of everything and the cost of living in general. And I think these are just taking advantage of too much of that. If they had already agreed that I was eligible for UK medicinal cannabis, I'm already prescribed UK medicinal cannabis, which sort of proves I'm eligible, have been for the last 8 weeks prior to that, then how come all of a sudden they need £250 to sit me in front of another GP to say, yes, we've read your records and that's fine? They already told me that in an email and on a phone call. It's running close to a scam, and I can understand why people will call it a scam because of this type of situation. Again, there's quality meds out there that certain clinics won't prescribe because they're in such demand. Grow Pharma's meds are getting really, really good feedback from all the clients that's getting them. A lot of the medicines that have been sent out through certain clinics, like Cureleaf and other clinics, I've seen, and even my own medicines, sometimes it's very subpar. The stuff from Grow Pharma has been very, very on point as regards quality, and certain clinics won't prescribe it. They're saying it's down to it hasn't been blasted by infrared, but there's different ways of doing quality tests, and the Grow Pharma stuff seems a very high standard. There's people in the industry have been consuming cannabis for many, many years, and these people are even looking at it and analysing it and saying it's high standard, but yet they seem to be getting their back put up against a wall a bit from certain pharmacies won't prescribe it because of it seems to be taken over, to be honest. A lot of people don't want the other stuff now because the quality just doesn't come up to par with some of the new pharmacies like Grow Pharma that have come out and started pushing high standard flour.
I'm sort of thinking it sounds a bit like certain companies have kind of like almost lobbied their way into a contract, or schmoozed their way. This is
what it all seems to be, lobbying in the background.
Out the better ones, because that's just so typical of government. They'll have some mate who knows someone who's got a load of shares in this one that happens to be the one that fucking gets in,
You really probably could have nailed that better, and that's what I'm trying to, the point I'm trying to make here, I think, is that it is down to lobbying and stuff in the background, that it's corruption in my eyes. Do you know what I mean?
And if it was just an open, free market, like with anything else, like, that would eliminate that, you would hope. I mean, sure, they might have more sway and more, marketing budget, etc. But like, people who know,
that's exactly
and they can go buy what they want instead of having it to be filtered through this pharmacy system as it is at the minute, it seems.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's exactly what they're doing. That they're restricting a lot of people's choices, and it's like I say, if someone's prescribed something for a certain ailment and they're saying that flour's not unavailable because it's been in high demand this month or whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter the reason behind it. It should be available if someone's being prescribed it. It's like someone being prescribed Prozac from a doctor for 6 months and it's helping them, and then all of a sudden, no, you can't give you your Prozac anymore. Unlucky. It's not the way the system works. Do you know what I mean? When someone's getting their health on point with something, you need to keep that going. You can't just strip that from them. So I think the system needs a lot of work. Yeah, there's an event in Belfast this week about medical cannabis and stuff, and hopefully there'll be a bit of lobbying done at that to address a lot of these issues. I'd certainly hope so anyway. I'm looking forward to seeing who's in attendance and what's done in regards ironing out a lot of these issues. It's certainly problems within the medical cannabis industry in the UK. It's far from perfect, and it's very, very flawed, and as I said, it's barely fit for purpose, especially if they're sending people the wrong medications. Lucky that person who actually messaged me knew that it was the wrong medication, but what if someone who just doesn't know a lot about cannabis has just sent their medication, just consumes it, not realising it's a different medication they've even sent out to what they prescribed them? And again, you're back to square one whether that medication is going to work. That medication can make the condition worse for all that GP knows, because I'm presuming a lot of these GPs don't have a lot of knowledge on cannabis strains and different terpene profiles and cannabinoid profiles in those strains. So to me, there's going to be issues if they're prescribing an alternative, as they call it. That alternative's not always going to be ideal, and not when those people aren't educated on strain profiles and such like. And again, that's back to what I was saying about cannabis specialists being alongside these GPs giving advice, because they should be working hand in hand. Why should just someone who has the understanding of the conditions be the one to help if they don't have an understanding of the medicine? You need to have an understanding of the conditions and the medicine. And to me, that's key, where you need to get GPs to work alongside people who have been working with cannabis for many years or have been studying cannabis for many years. It's a no-brainer.
It sounds to me like when you combine those two things, the issues with production and the issues with the understanding of the people in positions to give them the prescriptions, i.e. doctors, it just seems very not well thought through. Like the things maybe just been pushed out way before it's been considered properly. And it even got me thinking, I wonder if countries like Italy be looking at systems like this and go, oh right, now we'll not do it that way, we'll save ourselves a massive headache and just hand it over to the people.
But in relation to what we're saying about Italy, about being able to grow a couple of plants for yourself, it's becoming a global trend. I mean, like I say, you've Italy there, you've Argentina, you've Malta, Portugal, Luxembourg, and then Thailand, who recently done it, and who's obviously delivered 1 million plants to homes around Thailand. So Italy's planning 4 plants for each household by the end of the year. It's fantastic, that way of doing things, but as I said, it does seem to be a global trend. And it seems to be working well alongside medicinal cannabis, to where if you want to take the time to learn to do it yourself, then so be it, and it'll save you the money of obviously paying out to do that. But it also gives specialists who have been working with cannabis for years behind the scenes the chance to help people legally that way, because they could grow the 4 plants, they could help 1 or 2 people that need to help, or they could help someone grow their 4 plants and help them process it, how they need to process it to get the medicine they need to get from it in the end. Because obviously it's not always just going to be a simple cut the flower and smoke the flower type process. Sometimes you need to process it in the oils and stuff if people are treating maybe cancer or epilepsy, things like that, where they need a high THC oil, things like that, where that means the cannabis specialists who again have been studying it for years are able to help people and show the compassion legally. I mean, you have to understand that a lot of people are on the misconception that this is all new. This is far from new. There's been UK cannabis social clubs for well over 5 years in the UK. Chief Inspector Ron Hogg and stuff I've known about them, have openly endorsed them over the last 5 years. Have been in them, sitting, talking with these people consuming their cannabis on an open basis, because whether a lot of people are aware of it or not, it's at the police's jurisdiction. So if, for talk's sake, the police in Wales want to take a stance where they don't feel that they want to really enforce criminalisation of cannabis, they don't have to. It's down to each department's decision, and they've used that discretion. Teesside Cannabis Club was another one over the last lot of years. Was running again with police forces inside, talking to them and understanding this. But what the police forces that came in and talked to these people in these clubs tended to realise was, and were actually quite mind blown by, was the compassion in these clubs. And that's why a lot of clubs are called compassion clubs, because it's somewhere for someone who knows nothing about cannabis, apart from maybe hearing a bit of hearsay that it'll help their cancer, it'll help their epilepsy, or help their son's epilepsy, or whatever the case may be. People who just catch a wee bit of wind of this in the media or the news and don't know enough about it, we're able to go to these cannabis clubs. We're able to sit and discuss this with people who understand cannabis, who've been working with cannabinoids and cannabis oils and creating oils for many, many years. They were able to go to these people and get the advice they need, get the help they need to create the oil they need to help their cancer, their epilepsy, whatever the case may be. So this isn't by no means a new thing. People have been growing cannabis and helping people with oils and plants for many, many years. It's just they've had to do it in secret. Where now this system would just, I think, that would help things become a bit more legal, to where these people obviously are able to help people on more of a legal front, to say certain towns and cities will let this happen, as I've explained, but certain ones won't, and they'll nail you to a wall for trying to help someone medicinally, which it is wrong morally. It's morally wrong. If someone needs help medicinally just because the plant is illegal, it doesn't mean it's correct. It's morally wrong that you can't help these people, and these people deserve the help, rightly so. And again, like I say, it's a natural plant, so it should be the first option rather than the last option. But because it's been demonized for so many years, it tends to become the last option for so many people, which is something we really need to change. Again, it's part of the reason why I started this podcast, is to break that stigma, and so we can talk openly about a plant, because that's what it is. It's a flower. Do you know what I mean? I mean, call people drug dealers. I'd call them a florist before I call them a drug dealer, because they're selling flowers. Do you know what I mean? It's not drugs they're selling. I mean, like I say, alcohol, tobacco, they're a lot more dangerous than cannabis. So we're going to start labeling the local confectioner a drug dealer because he's selling tobacco? No. So again, it's how we address things now and how we talk about it, and we need to change how we talk about cannabis. And I think that's key to breaking the stigma with a lot of people. I had mentioned before in the last episode of the podcast that we're going to address conditions. On each podcast we'll touch briefly on a condition and how we feel that condition can be helped. Again, like I said, I don't give medical advice, but I can certainly share a bit of knowledge of what I've learned over the lot of years I've been researching cannabis and cannabinoids and terpenes and so on. Insomnia is rife for many reasons, but I think key to help insomnia is finding the reason. A lot of the time people just mask a problem with pharmaceutical drugs for insomnia, or certainly cannabis for insomnia even. I mean, that's no different. You can mask things with cannabis rather than treating them. I think sometimes with insomnia that can be the problem. You need to address what's causing you to have issues sleeping. Maybe it's not just an insomnia issue, it's maybe an anxiety issue that's causing you anxiety all day and causing you a bit of anxiety and depression. Then you're overthinking at night, you're lying in your bed, you're overthinking. It's anxiety causing that. It could be the side effects of an anxiety treatment causing that. It could be the side effects of another treatment for another ailment causing you insomnia, because you get side effects of other pharmaceuticals. And again, insomnia is a big side effect of a lot of pharmaceuticals, especially for anxiety and depression. You need to address what's going on in the background if you have an issue, I think, that way. But either way, cannabis will help you, but you need to use the right strain. Again, you're not going to smoke a sativa and go to bed, because you're going to lie with your thoughts racing, wondering what you're going to do the next day, or indeed the whole week, or indeed the whole month, or the whole year. That's just what sativa can cause you to do, because it makes you overactive in your thoughts and gives you that creative edge, rather than indica will give you that sort of tiredness and that wind down and that relaxation. I recommend strains high in myrcene or linalool. So if you were using cannabis strains rather than oils and things like that, you would tend to pick kushes or things like that, or grape ape maybe, strains like that. But most of your kushes, your Hindu kushes and your Bubba kushes, they would be quite high in myrcene, and linalool, which are two of the main terpenes that would be very relaxing. Most of those terpenes are in like lavender and things like that. So it sort of goes hand in hand. We'll give you an explanation of how well they are as regards helping to encourage sleep. The joy of cannabis for going to sleep in relation to versus pharmaceutical medicines, a lot of pharmaceutical medicines will get you over to sleep, but they don't tend to last as long. And the ones that do tend to have really sort of heavy side effects the next morning, sometimes a lot of nausea and sickness too. Where with cannabis, when you're using it to go to sleep, like of edibles and things like that, or any other way you use it, if you use it right, it can last 2 to 5 hours. The actual effects of it is lasting 2 to 5 hours. So when you're asleep, you're staying asleep all night, and then you're waking up quite fresh, providing you don't use too much. Again, that's down to balance again, because you're using the right amount of THC. Like I say, THC is proven clinically to help you sleep, along with the right terpenes obviously as well will increase that benefit. But too much THC will actually give you issues when you're trying to sleep, because it'll make you paranoid, it'll make you anxious and so on, and make your thoughts race as well. So you have to be careful and find that balance. Again, it's like everybody has a certain balance of each cannabinoids and terpenes, and that's what's down to finding. But again, it's not just down to the THC. It's not the only cannabinoid. Well, it's one of the few cannabinoids that will make you sleep in cannabis, but it's not just one of the beneficial properties in cannabis that will help you sleep. Again, it's down to terpenes. You've got the linalool and the myrcene and all the other terpenes that actually do cause tiring effects. Say like I've just created an inhaler there with no cannabinoids in it at all. It's literally a terpene blend I've created, and people are using it before they go to bed, or if they're awake in the middle of the night, depends what type of sleeper they are. They're using that, and there's no cannabinoids in that at all. They're literally smelling terpenes, and the feedback from it's been phenomenal, to where people are sleeping really, really well, and they're sleeping a solid night's sleep, and they're waking up fully fresh because there's nothing hanging on them, because they've consumed nothing. All they've done is smell terpenes to help them relax and drift off to sleep, and it's working well. So again, when you compare that with pharmaceutical drugs with all these side effects, as I say, we've pulled out lists before and showed you the side effects of some of these pharmaceutical drugs. List as long as your arm. Something like that, you're not consuming anything, you're smelling something to go to sleep. It's a no-brainer when you're looking at cannabis versus pharmaceuticals a lot of the time. But even when you are consuming for toxic, if you're consuming edibles, you have a wee bit of THC in your system. The side effects, if you don't consume more than you're meant to, but the side effects like the paranoia and the anxiety and things like that, and the dry mouth, you won't get them if you consume the right amount of THC. It will just literally put you over to a peaceful night's sleep. But again, back to balance. It's the same with all the cannabinoids. It's down to find the right balance for you and what works for you. It's like I say, with all the endocannabinoid system, we need to feed. It's common sense. Anything in your system needs fed. So if you have a system in your body designed for cannabis, then it's a no-brainer to feed it. It's just feeding it the right cannabinoids that you need for your system, and finding a real good balance for you that will keep everything at bay and cause homeostasis in your body. That's the key to using cannabis, and it's the key to good health in my eyes. But again, like I say, in balancing those cannabinoids, it's finding the right ones. CBD is what they call wake promoting, so it actually stops you sleeping because it causes you to be quite alert. CBG would be even more wake promoting because it causes you to be even more alert than CBD. So those type of cannabinoids you don't use towards bedtime, because you're just going to cause yourself issues in regards to sleeping. So again, it's down to education and knowing what cannabinoids help each condition and when to use those cannabinoids throughout the day. So I use CBD, CBG throughout the day, THC at night. So it's knowing when to use those products for your conditions. Again, if you've got pain issues, then you'll need more THC. It's down to certain times of day for you, and again, it's down to finding that balance. And I think, like I say, they have a lot to do with the UK medical cannabis scene to fix that balance and help people find their balance like that, and to find their homeostasis a lot quicker than they should be. If you've got education in cannabis and cannabinoids, you should be able to help people find homeostasis within a few weeks, where it seems to be months down the line before some of these people are finding the balance they need. That's not a very good system if that's the case. So there's a lot to be done. Say hopefully a lot of the lobbying done over the next month or two towards this will help change things. I'd say all the faults are being pointed out now in the medical cannabis scene by a lot of people lobbying, which is great to see. Like Peter Reynolds, Mike Barnes, all these people are pointing out the flaws now, and it's being heard. So if we can keep pointing out the problems with the system, then hopefully these problems with the system get addressed and we finally get a system that will work. But I think key is to try and bring costs down dramatically for people, because there's so many people out there that just can't afford to go on a private prescription for medical cannabis. That's the truth, and these people would benefit drastically from it. So it's finding that balance. Like I say, the cost of the private prescriptions is mental. You can produce some of the oils that some of the people are buying for £40-50 for a bottle in relation to what they're being charged as regards £140-160 a bottle. Looking at it from an outside point of view, just as a big picture, you would almost think the UK medical cannabis scene is designed to fail. That's almost what it looks like. But I just think it's down to lack of planning at the start. I don't think anybody looked at this strategically properly and how to do this on a successful level. Like I say, the UK always say they can't use other countries' research. Don't see why not. I mean, that's part of the problem. If they looked at other countries where it's successful and followed their plan, then, I mean, look at Portugal, who's decriminalised all drugs altogether, and their crime rate dropped drastically shortly after they'd done it. It's been successful for many years since, so surely it proofs in the pudding. So I think we should look at other examples of other countries where things are working. And if we don't want to take their system, then take parts of their system and put it in with other parts of other countries' system that work well. But I think there's a lot of work to be done before the UK system is on point. No doubt in my eyes. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to address in today's podcast. I think we're going to take a wee break for a week or two here, but we'll be back for Product Earth in time for that. It's a big event I'm looking forward to this year. A lot of you know a lot about it. Anybody that doesn't, I would advise you go online, have a wee look about it. It's a fantastic event. All things holistic, but let's say mostly cannabis based. It's on from the 19th to 21st of August. It's Stoneleigh in England, so it definitely well worth looking into if that's the type of thing that interests you. I'll leave you with that, guys, and I'll see you in a few weeks' time.
I have just two quick questions.
Perfect time. Let's go.
Quick points to make. Firstly, would it be worth asking people to reach out to you who maybe are going to Product Earth if they want to have a wee chat while you're there?
Perfect. I would appreciate that. This is why Tim sits beside me, you see, and addresses these issues that I just don't even think about coming into my head. Fantastic. That's a good idea, Tim. I would appreciate that if people would say, anybody that is going to be at Product Earth, whether they're in the scene, they're not in the scene, whether they're just interested in cannabis at all, touch base with me. I'll touch base with you at Product Earth. We'll have a chat. We'll have a chat on camera, off camera, whatever suits you at all. It's always nice to connect with people.
Yeah, just because as we mentioned beforehand, maybe it'd be an opportunity to get a few other people, a few of the audience's faces or voices actually out on this podcast in the future if you get to chat to them. Well, actually, the second point, Lee, just back to you mentioned those inhalers. Actually, a few people I know as well have mentioned that they've been working fantastically for them, and all assume that they contain CBD or beyond CBD, some magical ingredient. And they're also very affordable compared to certain CBD products. The CBD can be, a big enough investment for some people. So basically, just the point was, where do people go to find out more, mate?
Well, that's the thing about CBD, and that's why I try to create the inhalers, because CBD can be expensive to step into for a lot of people in the industry. So the inhaler's an entry-level product. You know what I mean? You're buying it for in around £10. It's very good for people to just step in the industry and see if cannabinoids or terpenes are working for them. I say there's no cannabinoids in it, but terpenes are in it, so it's still a cannabis-based product. So I think it's a good entry-level product for people to actually sample and see if it works for them, and if it works for them, see how simple it is for it to work, and maybe give them a bit of interest in the industry and seeing how CBD and other cannabinoids can balance other things in their body for them. And it's like, my goal is just to help everybody gain homeostasis with cannabis. That's my goal, because, and again, it's down to everybody find their balance of their terpenes and their cannabinoids for that. But I say, if anybody wants to know more about the inhalers, just give me a shout. Contact me in Canna Healthcare UK or Good Vibes CBD. There's no problem at all. I'll give you any more information you need on them.
Very good. Thanks for that, Lee.
No problem, Tim. Thanks very much. And again, thank you for joining me, and thank you for your time, and thank you for your afterthoughts that I don't come up with again.
No problem. As usual, I am more informed, and thank you, mate.
Thank you very much. Have a great day. Thank you, guys.
Watch the full video podcast on YouTube at Kaput Network.
We'd like to thank you for joining us for this week's episode. We'll catch you again soon for some more CannaChat. And remember, the real crime is knowing cannabis can help others, but doing nothing about it.